Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah for joining our class, especially to those who have been waiting patiently to join the class before it started. Discipline in charge. Can we have a student for the daily dua, please?
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, could we have G2674?
G2674. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
That's good to hear. Okay, so we'll get started. And today, if we start with ta'ud, so I'll recite, and if you could just follow me. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Okay, would you like to read the translation?
Yes. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the rejected.
And for Bismillah?
In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful.
Jazakallah, okay. And this dua too. Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'an.
Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'an.
Jazakallah. And the translation?
Oh Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge.
Okay, excellent. Jazakallah G2674 for reading today's dua. Jazakallah. Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes.
It's been a few weeks and we haven't got chosen to read for the main class only one time.
Okay. I've noted your number and hopefully inshallah the ID, and hopefully inshallah you'll be called to the mic to recite, okay?
Yes.
Inshallah. Okay. Jazakallah G2674. Okay, so on to our etiquettes for today's class. So you're well aware and very familiar with our rules and our etiquettes, and you should have done ablution, which is wudu, before you join the class. You should be wearing clean clothes. Your head should be covered. And you should be sitting in a quiet place. And a parent should be present, and you should be using the correct ID. Do bear in mind, if you're not using your correct ID, there's a chance you won't be called to the mic and you won't get a chance to read. Okay, so on to our daily schedule. So today is class 38, and the daily schedule is as follows. We've done the assembly, which is the opening dua and announcements. And today's rule in focus are the rules of waqf, and we'll be doing rules number 9 and 11 from Talimul-Quran. Okay, and onto the practice text, which is at 6:20. We'll be doing chapter 101, and which are verses 1 to 12. This is Surah Al-Qariyah. And from 6:35 onwards, I'll be teaching you something new today about hard words in the Holy Quran. Then hopefully we'll have enough time to do the QRS 3, which is part 13 today. And then we'll go on at 6:50 to consolidate with the homework, announcements, and the closing dua. Okay, so on to our hard words. So sometimes while we're reciting the Holy Quran, sometimes we come across some words that seem a bit tricky to recite. In front of you, you can see there's a word here that looks a bit tricky, but we can make these words easier we can actually slow down while we're reciting, and we can break up the word to make it easier to recite. In this instance, you can see the words here. One second. Okay, so the word is kal-ihni, and that can be quite tricky because some words do have a few rules in them. But in order to make it easier for ourselves, if you look at these boxes below, you can see what we've done here. So in box 1, you can see the word kal. And then in box 2, you can see kal. It shows you how to join the letters. And then the third is kal ihni. That's reciting the whole word. So you can learn to break down the word and read it in sections. If you notice in the beginning of this word, you'll see a kaf with a fatha, and it is followed by a lam sakin. In this case, you know that a kaf with a fatha is ka, and a lam sakin is a joining rule. So we know we have to join it to the word that is the vowel letter previous to it. So in this case, we will join the ka to the lam, kal. And then you can see how this word joins onto the next word as well. We can read ih. Now, ayn is a bit tricky, but you can manage it with practice. And see here, you see a ha sakina that has to join onto the ayn that carries a kasra. In this case, so we read it kal. And then we're building up to read the whole word. And then this way, you've already learnt these two words together, kal ihni. And then we read it together, kal ihni. So this is how we make the words easier to read. So it's very important that when we find a word that's a bit tricky, we slow down and break it up into sections so it's easier for us to read. Okay, can I have a student to the mic so we can practice these words?
G2584.
G2584. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. G2584. Assalamu alaikum. Can we have another student?
Yes, G2725.
G2725.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Well, thank you. Okay, so you've just listened to the words and the hard words sheet here that I've been reading to you. So let's attempt this together. So if we read this word together, kal ihni.
Kal ihni.
Okay, and then to make it easier, we're breaking it down again. So if you read the first square here,
Kal.
and then the second one,
Kal ih.
and then the third one.
Kal ihni.
Excellent. That was very good reading, G2725. So do you understand how to make these words easier for you?
Yes.
Okay, let's attempt another one as well. So would you like to read this one by yourself? Go ahead.
Yes. Kal muhli.
Wonderful.
Kal muhli.
So can you see when we see some tricky words, how you make it easier for yourself? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, so we take it slowly, we break down the word into more manageable parts and we connect them slowly. Yes? Okay, Jazakallah G2725.
Allah Hafiz. And can my brother read?
Yes, I'm sure. Can you bring to the mic your brother? What's his ID?
G2726. And he's on a different device.
Yes, go ahead, G2726. Assalamu alaikum, G2726. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Okay, wonderful. So do you
How
want
are
to
you?
I'm well, thank you. Do you want to go ahead and read the next one? I can help you with this. Shall we go through it together?
Yes.
Okay, this one here, as you can see, carries a tashdeed, and this one's a bit trickier. So it's ayyamma tad'u.
Ayyamma tada'u.
Ayyamma tad'u.
Ayyamma tada'u.
Okay, so this is elongated. There's a 2-second elongation here. Ayyamma tad'u.
Ayyamma tada'u.
Okay. So do you want to read with me this one here? So we would read this. As you can see, this ja carries a tashdeed. The alif carries a fatha. So we can join them together as ay.
Ay.
And then ayyam,
Ayyam.
ayyamma,
Ayyamma.
ayyamma tad.
Ayyamma tad.
Okay, so can you see this meme? Is it meme mushaddad? Do you know the rule of meme mushaddad?
You pronounce it for 2 seconds.
Correct. So you hold on to the meme while you're reciting it. So ayyamma tad.
Ayyamma tad.
Okay, so ayyamma tad'u.
Ayyamma tata'u.
Tad'u.
Tad'u.
Okay. So can you see how by breaking each letter, each word down, it's easier to read and make the word complete? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So Jazakallah G2726 for that. Can we have another student to the mic, please?
Lafis.
Jazakallah.
Yes. Could we have G2659?
G2659. Assalamu alaikum. G2659. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'll choose another student. G2660.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you today?
Good.
You're G2660.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to read the word up on screen?
Kal ihni.
Yes. Okay. So kal ihni.
Kal ihni.
Okay. So would you like to read the box one? Would you like some help, or are you going to read it yourself?
Read it myself.
Go ahead.
Kal
Yes.
ihni.
Wonderful. Okay, excellent. So can you see how easy that is as you join them together separately? It becomes easier to recite them. Excellent. That's really well read. So well done for that G2660. I'm going to give somebody else a chance to read as well. So can we have one more student to the mic, please?
Yes, G2606.
Assalamu alaikum, G2606.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Okay, so would you like to read the word up here?
Okay. Tastaksiru.
Okay, so in order to make it easier for ourselves, we're going to break it down. So go ahead and read this.
Das.
Yeah.
Tastaksiru.
Yes. Okay. So you can see how it becomes easy to recite as we go. So anytime you find a word that you're finding quite difficult, sometimes that occurs because of the rules in the words. You can break it down into sections, and it becomes very simple to read. So okay, excellent. That's really good. Okay, Jazakallah G2.
Can my brother or cousin have a turn?
Yes. If you give me the ID.
My brother's ID is G2613 and my cousin's ID is G2584.
Okay, so can I have G2613?
And then, should I go get him? We're on the same device.
Yeah, you can just call him to this the mic.
Okay.
Go ahead. So G2613. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, 1 second.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Okay, so G2613. Would you like to read what's on? Can you hear me? G2613.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Can you see what's on screen?
What?
Can you see the words on screen?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and read them. This word here.
Naka.
Okay, so when we're reading a short vowel, the short vowel is to be recited softly. So rather than have a jerk sound, yeah, that's brilliant.
Naka.
This letter here, is this a T?
Oh.
What's
Yubayyinaka.
MashaAllah, you corrected yourself. Well done. Okay, so go ahead and read the first slide, first box.
You.
Okay, so again, when we're reciting a short vowel letter, how do we recite that letter?
You.
You, softly. Well done. Okay, so go ahead and read the next part.
Yuba.
Okay, so elongation is of 2 seconds when we see an alif after a maftu letter, which in this case is the ba, a fatha letter, yes? So, yuba.
Yuba.
Okay, next. So you can see here, this is an ayn and it carries a sukoon. We have to join the ayn onto the ya, and this is a ya with a kasra, so it's yi. Yubayi.
Yubayyi.
Okay, keep on going.
Yubayyina.
And the last part.
Yubayyinaka.
Okay, excellent. You read very well. So just ensure that you recite each letter and a rule for enough time and elongation. So Jazakallah G2613.
And my cousin have a turn.
Yes, in a moment. So if you hold on, and what's your cousin's ID is G2584, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, your cousin can have a go in a moment on the recitation part that we're going to do just now. So okay, Jazakallah. Okay, Allah Hafiz. So as per our schedule, you may have noticed I made a slight mistake. So these hard word section was to come later on, and we were going to do the waqf rules in the beginning, but we will now swap over, and I should do the waqf rules a little later on. And for now, we're going to skip to the recitation of the verses, the set verses for today. And this is Surah Al-Qari'ah, which is a Meccan surah, is part number 30, chapter number 101. It has 12 verses, and the number of rukus are 1, and the order of revelation is 30. So G2584, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. G2584, are you still there? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Is that G2584? Can you hear me? Is that G2584? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Yes, hello.
Okay, so would you like to go ahead and recite this portion of the surah that we're learning today?
Okay.
Okay, I can't hear you very well. I don't know if
Sorry? Hello?
I can't hear you very well.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so would you like to recite? So start with Bismillah. Would you like me to recite? You can follow me. Yes?
No, it's fine.
Okay, go ahead and recite.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Al-Qari'ah. Mal-Qari'ah. وما أدراك ما القارئة يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث.
Yes, you corrected yourself. Keep going.
وتكون الجبال كالإهن المنفوش.
Okay, Jazakallah. So G2584, that was really well read. I can see you've learned all the rules really well. Okay, so this, just a quick correction. So this qaf is a thick sounding letter. It's a qa, qari'ah. And this ayn is very pronounced. So you can try this once. So if you repeat after me, al-qari'ah. G2584, Assalamu alaikum, are you still there? G2584? Okay, can we have another student to the mic, please?
It's G2737.
G2737, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So would you like to recite after me?
Okay.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Al-Qari'ah.
Al-Qari'ah.
So the ayn is quite pronounced. Ah, it's a throat sound and it's quite pronounced sound. Ah. Yes, okay. So you can see the rules that you've been learning from last week. This ta marbuta turns into a ha sakina when we stop. So this is the end of the verse. This is a complete stop. This is where the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to stop. So we stop here as well. And this turns into ha sakina. That's why we're reading as ah rather than atu. Okay, so mal qari'ah.
Mal Qari'ah.
وما أدراك ما القارعة
Wama adraka mal Qari'ah.
Okay, wonderful. So while you're reciting, just bear in mind the rules that you've learned so far. So this letter is a bouncing letter. It's ad. Adraka. So bear in mind, when you come across the short vowels, how long do we recite this letter for?
1 second.
Yeah, okay. So remember just not to elongate where you don't need to. So وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ.
Wama
Okay. So this here, this dal, is a slight jerk sound with it. That's all. So it's ad.
ad.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like to start again?
Okay. Wama adraka.
Okay. Shall we take it slowly, like I just taught you in the sheets before, in the hard words? So when we're finding it a bit tricky, so we can slow down. Let's do them separately. Wama
Wama
ad raka
adraka
mal qari'ah.
mal Qari'ah.
Wonderful. Okay. Yawma yakunun nasu. Sorry, in this case, when we stop, it turns, what does this here, this madmum scene turn into when we come to a stop here? This is part of the waqf rules that you've been learning recently. And what happens to this dhamma when we stop here?
We do a full sound.
Yes, and what's the rule? So this dhamma turns into a different stroke. What does it turn into when we come to a stop? When we've lost our breath or we're just pausing here? What does it turn into? So according to the waqf rules that we've been learning, this dhamma turns into a sukoon. So this scene turns into a sakin scene. Okay, so when we come to a stop here, we read it as nunnas. So let me show you that again. Yawma yakunun nas. Do you want to try that?
Yawma yakunun nas.
Okay, well done. So don't forget the noon mushaddad. When you see a noon mushaddad, what's the rule for this noon that carries a tashdid, a shadda?
You have to do like anna.
Okay, well done. So in order to do that, you have to give it some time. So hold on to it for a second or two, okay? So this is how we're going to read this noon mushaddad. Nun nas.
Nun nas.
Oh, mashallah, well done. Okay, so because we've stopped here, we can go back a bit to start again. We can read from here. An-nasu kal-farashil mabthuth. Would you like me to take that slowly, like we did with the hard words?
Yes, please.
Okay. An-nasu
An-nasu
kal-farah.
Kal-fara.
Okay, so this is a flat sound. Kal. Kal. It's not the qaf, it's the flat sound. Kal-fara.
Kal-fara.
مبثوث.
Shil
Shil.
mad
So you can see the lam talking here that needs to join on to this sheen. Shil
shil
mabthooth.
mabthur.
So this scene is actually said like a th sound, th, as if you were. So you're touching the top of your teeth, and then your top teeth with your tongue. Thuth.
Thuth.
Brilliant. Well done. That's very good. So let's try that again. Shil mabthuth.
Shil mabthuth.
Well done. That was really well read. Okay. So we're going to continue. One second. Watakunu.
Watakunu.
So watakunul jibal.
Watakunul
Jibal.
jibal.
Okay. Kal'ihnil manfush.
Kal'ihni nil
Manfush.
manfush.
Okay. Do you know this rule here?
You have to do the stroke. It's a different stroke.
Yes. Okay. So this is a noon sakin here, and what follows the noon sakin is very important. In this case, this rule is a rule of ikhfa, where the noon sound is partially hidden. So manfush.
Manfush.
Okay. So when we say man, if you just bring your tongue backwards a little, it's just got to sound slightly nasalized. Manfush.
Manfush.
Okay, so the sound is very slight noon. I think you learn it as you go. Okay, Jazakallah G2737. That was really good reading. Just continue to read with the rules that you're learning. So well done for that. Jazakallah. Can we have another student to the mic, please?
G2675.
G2675. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you today? Are you well?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so would you like to read on from here? So I will read and you can follow me. Yes?
Okay.
Okay. فَأَمَّا
فَأَمَّا
مَا ثَقُلَتْ
مَوْثَقُلَتْ
مَوَازِينُهُ
مَوَازِينُهُ
فَهُوَ
فَهُوَ
Yes. فَهُوَ في
في
عيشة
عيشة
راضية.
راضية.
Okay, wonderful. So, according to the rules you've been learning, what happens to this letter at the end of this verse when we come to stop here?
It's a Talimul-Quran.
Well done. That was very good. So, what happens when we come to a stop? So, this Talimul-Quran carries a tanween of kasra. So, what happens to the tanween of kasra when we stop at the end of this verse?
Does it turn into a ha?
Well done. Yes. And it also carries a stroke. What stroke does it carry? It carries a sukoon. Okay. So when we come to a stop, the rule for the tanween of kasra makes it turn into a khas in this case. So any letter that carries a tanween of kasra turns into a sukoon letter. Yes? A letter with a sukoon. Okay. Let's continue to read. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ موازينه
موازينه
Well done. Okay. فأمه
فأمه
هاوية
هاوية
وما
وما
أدراك
أدراك
ما هي
ما هي
نار حامية.
نار هامية.
Very, very well read. MashaAllah, you read very well. So if you just quickly notice this ha here, and you can see it's at the end of the verse. So what happens to this ha when we stop here at the end of the verse? Do you know what happens? So what's the rule of waqf here? So waqf means to stop. And what happens to the ha sakina when we come to a stop at the end of this verse? So at the end of a verse, if there's already a letter with a sukoon on it, it doesn't change. It remains the same. Okay?
Okay.
That's the rule for that waqf rule. Okay? Jazakallah, excellent. So Jazakallah G2675, that was really good reading. And I can see you're picking up the rules really well. Please do continue to read and remember all the rules you're learning as you go. Okay, so on to the rules of waqf for today. So today's waqf rules that we'll be learning are rules number 9 to 11, and you can find these on page 85 of the Talimul-Quran book that if you have it. Okay, so rule number 9 of waqf rules. So I'm going to quickly go through what waqf rules means, just to remind you. So waqf means to stop or pause during the recitation. Pausing at the end of a meaningful sentence or a verse with a break of breath is called waqf. The correct way of pausing at various types of Quranic words is explained below. So on to rule number 9. Over here, you can see it says Abwaban. So if we were to pronounce this, when we come to a stop, this is I just recited it in continuation. So if we were to stop, so fatha with an alif will be pronounced in place of tanween. This is the tanween of fatha over here. It's also called a fathatain. So when you come to a stop on this word will be pronounced, the fatha with an alif will be pronounced. As you can see here, it's highlighted in red. So rather than saying abwaban, we say abwaba. That's in the case of if we were to stop, but in continuation, we read it like this as it's written. Okay, and number 10, yes, you can see here that after this in ishbaya fatha, you can see that there's a ja here. And that's also to do with an elongation. So there will be no change. So what happens when we recite this at a stop? It doesn't change. It stays exactly the same. It looks different here, but it actually stays exactly the same. So yes, we read it in, if we were to come to a pause at the end of a verse or in between a verse when we need to take a breath, we would read it as yes, so nothing changes there. And on to the 11th one. Again, yuhyi. Over here you can see a inverted a vertical kasra, and in this case there will be no change and the prolongation continue is for two seconds. Yuhyi. Okay, so the examples for waqf rule number 9 is, I won't go through them, but they're here and you can actually see here and here. If you were to stop, this would turn into ha, and this would be turn into a rather than han or an. Okay, and rules for waqf of rule number 10. Over here you can see that it's very similar. This is a line with a vertical fatha, and in this case when you were to stop here, it wouldn't change. It would remain it would be 2 seconds stop here. Over here is the rule as well. You can see here the same rule that we learned in the page 85 of Talimul-Quran. It shows you the same example. And over here you have the rule for rule 11 with, let me find it for you quickly. Okay, over here, you can see that. You can see the vertical kasra there. And if we were to stop here, it would stay the same. It would not change. Okay, so that's fine. If you just wait as we go. So on to the QRS part of our lesson today. So it's part 13 that we're looking at today. So as you understand, we're teaching you the Holy Quran is split into 30 parts to make it easier for you to have a learning program, a reading program. And according to the program, part 13 is in Surah Yusuf, verse 12, which is chapter 12, verse 54, and it begins with وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ. And it finishes at Al-Hijr, which is chapter 15 and verse 2. As you'll be reminded that each chapter begins with a few words, specific words. And in this case, chapter 13 is وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ. Okay, Jazakallah for that. Okay, so if we just go back to Surah Al-Qariyah. Okay, can I have another student for recitation, please?
G2587.
G2587. Assalamu alaikum. G2587. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah.
Okay.
Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah. Okay, wonderful. You're here. Okay, so would you like to read?
Yes.
Okay, I'll recite if you could follow me. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Al-Qari'ah.
Al-Qariyah.
Mal-Qari'ah.
Mal-Qariyah.
وما أدراك ما القارئة
وما أدراك no wait, sorry.
Okay, so should we just take it slower? وما أدراك
وما أدراك
ما القارئة Okay. ما القارئة
كما القارية.
Okay, wonderful. So when you recite this by itself, it's a 2-second elongation. Ma, but as you can see, following this word here, this letter here, you see a lam sakin, okay, which is a lam that carries a sukoon. That's a joining word. So sometimes it can seem a bit tricky. What happens? You remember the rule for sukoon? What happens in this case when we see a lam sakin? We know it's a joining letter. So what do we do in this case to connect it onto the letter before? Do you remember the rule? Okay.
Yeah, I forgot.
Okay, when you see a lam, a sukoon above a letter, you remember that it's a joining letter. And you also have to remember what kind. So in this case, you have to remember that it has to join onto the letter, the voweled letter that is preceding it. That means that any letters in between, for example, this alif here and this alif here, they are both dropped in continuation when you read it in continuation. Yes? So you only join this ma, that is the maftu ma, is the one that we connect onto the lam sakin. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that again. 1 second, if you could recite that again. I hope that's clear for you. So if we read from here onwards, so وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ
وما أدراك ما القارية.
Okay, much better. So is that much clearer for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay. Yawma yakun.
يوم يوم يكون.
Okay, why did I stop here on the noon sakin? Yakun. You can see what does the noon carry?
The nun carries a dhamma.
Wonderful. But we've stopped here because this verse is long, so we've stopped here. So I've stopped here, and what did I do to the noon?
You put
Okay, G2587. You're kind of fading out. I don't know if we've still got you with us. Can we have another student?
Yeah. G2744.
G2744. Assalamu alaikum. G2744. Can we have another student, please?
G2626.
G2626.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Okay, so would you like to continue reading from here onwards? So, Yawma yakun.
A'udhu billahi.
Sorry. I'm G274.
Okay, G2744. If you could just wait one moment, we'll get G2626 to read first, and then we'll finish for you. Okay.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Okay. Yawma yakun.
Yawma yakun.
Okay. So we need to, when we stop, we do need to go back. In this case, we will go back and continue anyway. And we'll stop at nas rather than kun. Yawma yakunun nas.
Yawma yakunun nas.
Okay. An-nasu kal farashil mabthuth.
An-nasu kal farashil mabthuth.
Very good reading. Okay. Watakunul jibal.
Watakunul jibal.
Al-jibalu kal-ihnil manfush.
Al-jibalu kal-ihnil manfush.
Well done. That was really good reading. Okay, this here is a noon sakin. And what do you know about this noon sakin rule here?
It has a sukoon on top.
Okay, wonderful. And what follows the noon sakin is very important. In this case, you can see a fa, which carries a dhamma. And in this case, we read it with a partial nasalization, which means ikhfa. So we read it as manfush. We give it 2 seconds as well in order to do the partial nasalization. So go ahead.
Manfush.
Much better, okay? So, okay. فأما من ثقلت.
فأما من ثقلت.
Okay, this letter here is tha. So من ثقلت.
من ثقلت.
موازينه.
موازينه.
Okay, wonderful. Let me quickly ask you, what's the rule here? Do you know that rule?
Do you have to prolong it for 2 seconds?
Well done. Yes, it's a longer elongation. So we do it for 2 seconds. So it's not a short vowel, it's a 2-second elongation. So Z, okay, for 2 seconds rather than Z. Okay, keep reading. So fahuwa fi.
فهو في
عيشة راضية.
عيشة راضية.
وأما من خفت.
وأما من خفت.
Okay, in this case, we pronounce the noon because it's followed by a kha in this case, okay? Man, okay? So it's a clear man rather than man, okay? وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ
وأما من خفت
موازينه.
موازينه.
Okay, so what happens to this ha that carries an inverted dhamma? What happens when we come to a stop here? Because this is the end of the verse, we are to stop here. So what happens to this ha?
Do you change the dhamma into sukoon?
Well done. Yes, that's correct. So that's a rule of waqf, which means a rule of stopping. Whenever we come to stop on one of a inverted dhamma, yes, it turns into a sukoon letter. So we place a sukoon above the letter. Okay, so let's continue. فَأُمُّهُ
فأم
هاوية
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 وما
وما
أدراك ما هي.
أدراك ما هي.
So hiyah. So the ha, you have to sound the ha because it's joining onto the ya. There is a slight ha sound there. Ma hiya
ما هي
narun hamiyah.
نار هامية.
Well done. That was really, really good reading. Okay, so what happens to this ha sakana when we come to a stop here? It stays the same. When you come to a stop, it doesn't change, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, Jazakallah G2626. Can we have G2744 back again?
Yes, of course.
Jazakallah G2744.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Okay, so wonderful, you're back. Let's continue from where you were reading. We're reading here. يَوْمَ يَكُونُ النَّاسُ.
يوم يقوم الناس.
This is a noon, yes. يَكُونُ النَّاسُ.
يكون الناس
كالفراش المبثوث.
الفراش المبثوث. الفراش المبثوث.
Well done. وتكون الجبال.
وتكون الجبال.
Whenever we come to a stop, when we pause, we go back a word or two. So we start here. الجبال كالعهن المنفوش.
الجبال
كالعهن
المنفوش.
Well done. Okay. So you see, if we slow down, it's much easier to read. The words that we were using in the hard word sheet, it's the same same concept here. So this is a bit tricky here. So kal ihnil. So kal, if we were to use the hard to read it slowly, it would make it easier. So if you read it in sections, so if you read it with me, kal ihnil. Okay. كالإحن المنفوش.
كالإحن المنفوش.
Okay, that was much better. So when we find these words that are a bit tricky, it's easier to break them down and read them in segments slowly. So, okay, just one more verse. So, فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ موازينه.
موازين.
Okay, wonderful. And what happens when we come to a stop here? So you can see this is a inverted dhamma above the ha. So what happens to this ha when we come to a stop here? So this is the rule of waqf that we learned last week. So this inverted dhamma turns into a sukoon. We place a sukoon above the ha. Okay. Zinu. Yeah.
زينه.
Okay. So do you understand when we come to a stop and you see an inverted dhamma, then that will turn into a sukoon above the letter that's there. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. Jazakallah G2744 for that. That was really good reading. Okay, so on to the last part of our class. So the rules of waqf that we learned today were rules number 9 to 11, and the reference is in Talimul-Quran, lesson number 21, page 85. The practice text for today was chapter 101, which is Surah Al-Qariyah, and we also went through how to recite the hard words. So the reference for this is in Talimul-Quran, pages 106 to 109 for those who have the book. So for this section, for the QRS, we've done part number 13 today. And just a reminder, the word in the beginning, awama ubari'u. This is Surah Yusuf, chapter 12, verse 54, and it ends Al-Hijr, chapter 15, verse 2. Okay, so your homework is good to continue to practice and apply the rules that we've revised so far in your daily tilawat, and continue to memorize Surah Al-Asr. So that's your homework for today. So continue memorizing Surah Al-Asr. Okay, so can I have a student to the mic for the recitation of the ending dua?
G2586.
G2586. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. G2586.
Yeah, choose another student. G2603.
G2603. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam warahmatullah. Okay, so shall we go through the dua for today? So Allahumma arhamni bil-Qur'anil azim.
Allahumma arhamni bil-Qur'an al-azim.
واجعله لي إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة.
واجعله لي إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة.
Okay, Jazakallah. And would you like to read the translation as well, please?
Oh Allah, have mercy on me through the Quran the Great,
Okay.
and make it for me the leader, the light, the guide, and the mercy.
Okay, Jazakallah. Jazakallah G2603. Okay, that concludes our class for today. So Jazakumullah for joining. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.